Hello friend and welcome to Tech Talk. In this lab course, we will learn how to install Active Directory domain controller via graphical user interface. The domain name will be teqtalk.lab. Then we will uninstall this Active Directory via GUI, and in that process we will also demote a domain controller. Then we will install the Active Directory via PowerShell. Now since Microsoft is pushing for the GUI-less server versions, we must be aware of the various PowerShell commandlets that are there to administer a Windows server. So let's get started. So here is my desktop and we have VM Player open. I will power on the DC1 that we configured in the lab setup video, and once it is powered on, we will then install it from Server Manager, which is the graphical user interface tool that we will be using. So here the local administrator user, we will give its credential to log in. And this is the server manager. It should open by default. Now if you see in the local server section, it is in workgroup, so no domain is installed at this moment. So this is the IP 192.168.1.10. We will now go to the dashboard, which is also the landing page. We can add roles from here, or we can also add from this manage section. I will use this add roles and features. So I will click on this pop-up will come. This is just informational in nature, so I will skip it. This is asking whether do I install role-based. Yes. If I have multiple servers to be controlled from here, there will be multiple servers listed. Here I will just select this server, click on next. Here all the roles are there, so I will select Active Directory Domain Controller, which is required by me. So I will select the second option, will click on it, and here there will be a pop-up that it says that it will add extra features that it will use to manage this Active Directory, and we will say okay, add features. Then I'll click next. This window, they might ask for some additional features if I want to install. Since I will install with PowerShell in the next lab, I will check if my PowerShell version 5 is selected. Yeah, it is selected. It's fine. So everything that I would need is selected here. So I will click on next, and here it is saying that Active Directory needs a DNS server to be installed on a network. If we do not have any, this will also install a DNS server. So that is fine for us, as we do not have any DNS server right now, so it's okay for us to get it installed. So I click on next, and this will be the brief summary of what are the things that are going to install. So we will click on install. So we can monitor the installation from here, or we can close it from here, and we can monitor it from the notification panel. So once it will be completed, it will ask for promoting this server to a domain controller. That is yes. In 2008 versions, we had to run a separate process called DC promo, but since 2012 onwards, server 2012 onwards, we do not have to run that separately. So here we have run that process, and here we have three options. Whether do we want to create a new forest? Yes, this is the first server in our complete environment, so we'll create a new forest. So we will give the domain name as teqtalk.lab and click on next. And it will ask for the function modes. Like basically, if the domain function mode could be different from forest function mode, but forest function mode cannot be means higher than the domain function mode. So domain function mode is always higher than the forest function mode. So here I do not have any other domain controller which is pre-2019 version, and there is basically no change between 2019 and 2016 in terms of functional level. So we will keep it 2016. Now what are the differences? We will cover it in a separate video. So this will be selections that are there. Now we have to enter the directory services restore mode password. So this password will be used like if you want to restore some objects from the Active Directory, then we would require this password for that. So we will click on next, it will say that there is no DNS delegation available, so we have to install a DNS. If there is an external DNS server already there, we have to manually integrate it. So fine for us, this is a warning we can ignore, so we can click OK and do next. So here we will get the net bias names, that is teqtalk. It is the pre 2000 NT versions NetBIOS. So these are the folders location where the database, sysvol and log folders will be there, which will be replicated among domain controllers. So then we would got the summary word tab, we clicked next, and here are the prerequisites. It check all the prerequisites. See, again it gave us the error of that DNS, so we can ignore as it passed all the pre-checks. So fine for us, we will now click install, and it will now promote my server from normal server to a domain controller. So once this is completed, it will ask for a reboot. We will click for a reboot. Once we come back after the reboot, we would see that the domain has been configured. So we will wait till it is restarted. So it is restarting from VMware, and if we click on Control Alt Delete, we would see that the domain name is showing first, like the NetBIOS name. So this is the format, NetBIOS / username. You can also log in like administrator at the rate teqtalk.lab. We could have used that, but this is the more common version of login that we do. So we will enter the password of user administrator and we will now log in. So when the server manager loads and we go to local manager, we can see that this user is now a part of the domain, and the name is teqtalk.lab. See right here, the DC1 teqtalk.lab. So full name will be dc1.teqtalk.lab and nothing else changed. We can manage this Active Directory from here, like we'll go to start, we will go to administrative tools, then we can select Active Directory users and computers. So this will be the application. This is the MMC console that we will have, and from here this is the domain teqtalk.lab. There are default objects that are already created, default OUs that are already there. We can anyway manage them as per our convenience. So next we will go to the DNS. We said that the DNS will also be installed, so let's see the DNS tool. Here it is. Again, all of them are available under administrative tools. So here in this MMC console, this is the DNS, and we would see the forward lookup zone has been created, right? So it is set now. Now everything looks fine. Now we can also access this applications from tools section of server manager. So that is that. Now we will proceed to remove these roles. So we'll click on remove. Again, it will select for which server I am willing to remove. I'll select this local server, and the roles that I want to remove, I'll select DNS server and all its management tools. Also, I will select Active Directory and all its management tools. But see here, we got an pop-up. The pop-up is we cannot just directly remove a role. We first need to demote this server from a domain controller to a normal server. Only then we can remove this role. So we will run that function, and it is asking that how do we want to proceed, like do I need to force the removal of this domain controller? Basically, we are not able to establish a proper connection with other domain controllers. I just want to force remove it. I do not have any pending replications or any other thing left. So this is that option, and the last domain controller in the domain. So basically that's self-explanatory in nature. After uninstalling, there will be no domain controllers left to replicate. I would select force remove. So these are the various roles that were hosted on this domain controllers. Now, had there been other domain controllers which could be contacted, they would have migrated these roles to other domain controllers. Since in my environment we have only one, that would not be an issue. So here is the credential that we must enter. Like when we demote this domain server from a domain controller to a regular 2019 server, we must have a local user for login in. So we just entered that password. So we will click on next and click on close. It will uninstall and do a restart. Now here we are back from restarting and we will log in. Here notice that we are again logging in by the local administrator user. So one thing we must keep in mind that we have just demoted the domain controller. The role is still there, so we still need to remove that role, Active Directory Domain Services. So see, it is removed, it is back in work group, so no more teqtalk.lab. But the roles, if we go to the notification panel, it will think that okay, I have installed the role but I have not promoted the server yet, so it is back to that previous step. So again, I can promote it from here, or we can just go all together and remove this feature or the roles from here. So I will select both Active Directory and DNS, because I will be again configuring this Active Directory and DNS from Powershell, so I will remove it from here. So I've selected Active Directory. Now I will select DNS server and all its management features, everything. I'll select next and then I would say remove. Make sure that you reboot your server once you have either installed or removed these features, because sometimes Windows don't actually prompt you for the restart, but it waits for a restart to have those features fully operational. So we have uninstalled it. Now we can go to power reboot, and then after this reboot is done, we will come back and we will do this installation step through PowerShell. Now PowerShell is very much required now because Microsoft is pushing the GUI less server versions. Like during the installation in the lab setup video, we saw that by default desktop experience was not selected. We had to select it manually to get this graphical user interface installed. So fine, again we will verify if the domain is completely removed and those features are not there. How? We can go to tools and we will see that those management tools are not there anymore. Fine, so now we will head to the PowerShell. We will go to start and we will click on PowerShell. Here we will do the rest of our task. So first we want to see what are the Windows features that are available and which one of them are installed. So we will run the command get Windows feature, hit enter, and it will list all the features that are there in the server, installed or not installed. So the features which are installed will have a cross mark in its beginning. You may see some of them that have cross mark. I will just take you to the ones that I want to install. So here we do not have any cross, but in files like we would require this Active Directory to be installed, and that is there. It is not crossed. That means I need to install it. Also we need to install this DNS feature. So these are the two things that we will install. So the command is pretty simple in PowerShell. The command is like for checking what features are there, we will run get-features, get Windows features. So here group policy is also there that we want to install, and we will run get Windows feature. We ran. Now we will run install Windows feature. Now it might happen that we are not aware of the complete syntax of the command. So in PowerShell we can do a get help option. So since this command is pretty simple, I'll just say install Windows features hyphen name, and then I will give the name of the service that I want to install. So here AD domain service and comma, I also want to use a DNS. So all the functionalities that I want to install at a go, I will separate them with a comma, and I want to install all its management tools and all the features, sub features that are to be installed along with it. So I will hit enter and it will install it in the background. So again, once the installation complete, it might ask for a reboot. Okay, it didn't ask, I suppose. Great, it didn't ask for a reboot. So what I will do now, I will promote this to a domain controller. So again, in GUI we have created a new Active Directory forest. So also here I will run the command install AD forest. Now again, if we do not have the syntax handy, we can go to get help, then the command, press enter, and the complete syntax will be displayed. So here we can see the parameters that we must give. So I will again write install hyphen, and if we want to autocomplete, we just enter tab, so it will autocomplete the command. So fine, we will first give it the domain name. It will be teqtalk.lab. Then we will specify the net bias name. So the net bias name is domain net bias, I believe, domain net bias name, yeah, right. So we will give it as tech talk, and then we will specify the functional levels. First I'll specify the domain function level, which will be domain mode, and here we have various modes, like in the GUI we had 2008, 2012, 16. So here also we have to 2008, 2012, 2012 R2 and win threshold. So if we keep win threshold, it will select the latest version. If we select the default, it will select 2008 from the list. Similarly, from the domain mode, we will also select the function mode as win threshold, because if my function domain mode is always greater or equal to my forest function mode, it cannot be lower than forest function mode. So now I have mentioned both of them. I will also mention the switch to install DNS, as I do not have a DNS server in my environment yet. So I mentioned install DNS. Then I will mention the database path. Like in the GUI, we saw the sysvol log and the database path. We will mention it here. So database path will be basic C Windows NTDS folder. This is the default path. I'm showing you this commands. Just if you want to change those paths, you can. So I have mentioned the database path here. Then we will mention the log path, which is also under the NTDS folder inside C Windows. Then the sysvol path. Sysvol path is a separate folder, C Windows sysvol. Now remember, all these folders, specifically sysvol, it is replicated among multiple domain controllers using DFS. Again, distributed file system. DFS was introduced in 2012 and later function modes. It was not there in 2008 mode. Replication used to happen using a different format. So I have mentioned all of them, and I do not want to reboot it automatically. I want to manually reboot it, so I will include the switch no reboot on completion and give its value as true. Then that's all, and it will prompt for the DSRM password in just if we need to restore any object or the AD. So I will enter the password. I will have to then confirm that password, and it should be enough to get this done. It will prompt for a, like, it will just get it confirmed. Do you really want to install an Active Directory? You want to promote? Yeah, fine, go on. Yes. So it will give us some warnings as it goes through it. In the background, it performs all the pre-checks and give us this prompt. Once pre-checks are completed and if pre-checks are passed, it will continue on installation. If any of the pre-check fails, it will stop the installation and give us an error message in the PowerShell. So here we have the yellow messages, which are just the warning, and I believe I must also get a warning for the DNS. Yes, I just got one. See, a delegation for this DNS server cannot be created because authoritative parent zone cannot be found. So basically it is saying that an authoritative parent zone or an existing DNS cannot be found. So if there is any DNS which is not installed in Windows, we can get it. So fine, the installation is completed, and as we know, we can check it in Server Manager. It will already be populated. See, it is populated with the domain name, but again, Windows, we must reboot the server once we install or uninstall any feature, because sometimes it might not ask, but it might not perform best. So we will do a restart here. Restart -computer. Pretty simple commands. So these are very handy commands that we have in PowerShell. So I believe, and see, it is again just as it was in GUI. So everything is installed. We will validate again by logging into Server Manager if we can see those tools and if the domain and everything is being populated in the local server. So the Server Manager is opening up. We'll go to the local server section again. And let's see. Let's wait till it refresh. Yes, see, the computer name is DC1 and the domain name is teqtalk.lab. So basically, if we go to tools, we can also see the management tools that are there. These were also there when we installed it from GUI. So basically the PowerShell commands are pretty simple. They're not very confusing in nature. We can learn them quite easily. Also, I will give all the commands that I used in the description section, but be aware of this PowerShell, because Windows is really pushing this PowerShell. They're spending a lot of money on this. If you have any doubts, feel free to bombard the comment section, and obviously subscribe Tech Talk. Have a great day. Happy learning. Bye bye.